Let's talk about the most famous person who never existed, Sherlock Holmes. He's got a more iconic address than most celebrities. 221B Baker Street, and people still send him mail. Holmes, with his deerstalker hat and pipe, could deduce your life story from a muddy footprint. He's the original superstar detective, making genius look cool long before CSI and DNA tests. Created over a century ago, Holmes is still everywhere. Movies, TV, even as a cartoon mouse. He's been rebooted more times than your Wi-Fi router. Holmes is a symbol of logic and the power of observation. He's the reason your friend thinks they're a detective after binge-watching one season of. Why do we love him? In a chaotic world, Holmes brings order. He untangles the impossible and makes sense of the senseless. He's the ultimate problem solver, the guy you want in your escape room team. But he's not just a thinking machine. He's moody, weird, and deeply human. That mix of brilliance and flaws makes him relatable, even when he's insufferable. Holmes taught us the science of deduction, being nosy but in a useful way. And his story begins not in London's fog, but in the mind of a doctor looking for extra cash. Every legend has a creator, and Sherlock's was Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, a doctor first, writer second. His medical practice was so slow, he started writing stories to pay the bills, the 19th century version of starting a podcast. Doyle was a man of contradictions, a believer in fairies and spiritualism. Yet he created the world's most logical detective. Maybe Holmes was his way of exploring the rational side he didn't live. The first Holmes story, 1887, was a slow burn, but once the stories hit, they exploded in popularity. Holmes became a sensation, but Doyle grew tired of him. He wanted to write serious historical novels. So he killed Holmes off in The Final Problem, tossing him off a waterfall. The public lost it. Mourning bands, angry letters, outrage. The pressure was so intense Doyle had to resurrect Holmes, inventing a fake death and a triumphant return. Holmes was now bigger than his creator. Fans demanded more, and Doyle had to deliver. He'd created a character so beloved he lost control of him. Holmes became a phenomenon, outliving even his author's ambitions. The people had spoken. Holmes was here to stay. And so, the legend grew. So where did Doyle get the idea for Holmes's razor-sharp mind? Enter Dr. Joseph Bell, Doyle's professor at Edinburgh. Bell was a surgeon who could diagnose patients before they spoke, just by observing tiny details. He'd announce a patient's profession and history from a glance, then break down his reasoning for baffled students. It wasn't magic, it was deduction. Bell taught his students to see, not just look. Doyle was captivated, later admitting, "It is most certainly to you that I owe Sherlock Holmes." Bell saw Holmes as a dramatized version of his own teaching careful, methodical observation. He believed the best doctors were detectives, reading lives from the smallest clues. Before forensics was a science, Bell was already applying its principles. He could spot a sailor by his hands, a cobbler by his trousers, reading people like open books. Every time Holmes deduces a client's life story, that's Dr. Bell's spirit at work. Doyle just added a violin, a drug habit, and a famous London address. The real genius behind Holmes was a doctor who saw the world in details. Holmes needed a stage, and Victorian London was perfect. Wealth and poverty, progress and crime, all shrouded in fog. The city was booming but also anxious and anonymous. Neighbors were strangers and danger lurked in the shadows. Crime stories filled newspapers, feeding public obsession and fear. London needed a hero, someone to cut through the chaos and bring justice. Enter Holmes. Not a policeman but a consulting detective, operating outside the slow, bumbling official channels. While police scratched their heads, Holmes was 3 steps ahead, reading clues in cigar ash and footprints. He represented the power of the individual mind against the city's madness. Holmes reassured a public that felt powerless, showing that logic could conquer chaos. The stories doubled as a tour of London, from mansions to opium dens, hansom cabs to street urchins. London wasn't just a setting, it was a character, alive with secrets and danger. Holmes was its master, the only one who could truly solve its mysteries. In a world both thrilling and terrifying, Holmes was the light in the fog, and that's why he became the city's ultimate hero. Holmes was a genius, but also a glorious mess. He was untidy, cigars in the coal scuttle, mail stabbed to the mantel, chemistry experiments at all hours. Living with him, a nightmare. Watson deserves a medal. Holmes craved puzzles. Without them, he spiraled into depression and unhealthy habits. Cocaine and morphine to fill the void. This darkness made him more than a thinking machine. He was a man battling his own demons. His skills were legendary: master of disguise, expert boxer, encyclopedic knowledge of everything from tobacco ash to poisons. He was a walking, talking Google for crime long before the internet. Holmes was the ultimate specialist in a world of generalists. Personality-wise, he could be arrogant, emotionally distant, and condescending, especially to poor Inspector Lestrade. He'd rather analyze you than chat with you. But beneath the cold logic, there was friendship, his bond with Watson, flashes of justice, even compassion. Holmes was part superhero, part mad scientist, part grumpy cat. That complexity is why we can't look away. He's not just a detective, he's a fascinating, flawed human, and that's what makes him unforgettable. Holmes's methods came from Dr. Bell, but Doyle also drew from real-life detectives and cases. The late 1800s saw the rise of professional investigators. Public fascination was sky-high. One inspiration, Eugène-François Vidocq, a French criminal-turned-detective who pioneered techniques like record-keeping and ballistics. Vidocq's blend of science and street smarts clearly influenced Holmes. The stories echoed real Victorian crimes, most famously Jack the Ripper. The police's failure to catch the Ripper made Holmes's fictional brilliance even more appealing. People wanted a detective who could solve the unsolvable. Holmes also popularized cutting-edge forensics, fingerprinting, handwriting analysis, ballistics long before they were mainstream. He made science the hero's greatest weapon. The adventures felt plausible and modern, grounded in real developments in criminology. Holmes was fantasy, but rooted in reality. It's 2025 and Sherlock Holmes is still everywhere. Why? First, he's the champion of intellect, proving that with enough brainpower any mystery can be solved. Holmes is endlessly adaptable, Victorian, modern, even futuristic. His essence survives any setting. The brilliant mind, the keen eye, the Watson friendship, these core elements work in any era. Holmes is the blueprint for every detective story since. Poirot, Batman, Dr. House all owe him a debt. He's the cool grandpa of modern crime fighters. We're obsessed with Holmes because he speaks to our need for answers and order in chaos. He reminds us to look closer, think deeper, and trust the power of observation. Holmes may never have lived, but thanks to Doyle and Dr. Bell, he'll never die. His legacy shaped pop culture and the detective genre forever. He's the hope that truth will come to light no matter how dark the fog. Sherlock Holmes, the detective who never lived but will never be forgotten, and for that, we're eternally grateful.